16 degrees Celsius right now. It is indeed a chilly afternoon, so we hope that you have your warm cup of coffee or tea or whatever it is that you're having. We hope that you're warm and ready to enjoy this program. My name is Fiso Ngumal, happy to be your host with my co-host Lungalele Makakula. Tomben, it's cold.
It's cold outside.
But the show has to go on. The show goes on.
It has to. Very good afternoon and welcome to Nedbank Business Watch. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Yes, we kick off the program today. We've got plenty to offer you today.
Yeah, indeed. Look, a lot of developments happening around the economic landscape of not only the globe, but different economies around the world. So we do want to look at the grand scheme of things today, the globe in this world that is increasingly shaped by geopolitical power plays as well as economic nationalism. The global economy just got a harsh reality check. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has slashed its 2025 global growth focus from 3.3% in January to a sobering 2.8% in April. The warning: we've entered what the fund calls a new era of global trade, one that is defined by tit-for-tat tariffs, as we've been seeing, some fraught diplomatic corridors, and uncertainty that's now backed into every projection. We are seeing Washington, everything that is happening there, all the way to Mbabane here in the Kingdom of Eswatini. The ripple effects are real and we can feel them. Now, advanced economies like the United States have taken a hit, with focus tumbling from 2.7% to 1.8%. Emerging markets, including our own kingdom, now face tighter external conditions, shrinking fiscal space, and growing questions about how to stay afloat. It's a very, very important question. Or better yet, how to stay ahead. We're going to have that conversation with our economist, Sanela Sbia, who's in studio today to help us really understand the implications of this sudden change.
Yeah, good afternoon once again. Today is the world commemorates World Book and Copyright Day. Every year on the 23rd of April, UNESCO celebrates World Book and Copyright Day to recognize the power of books as a bridge between generations and across cultures. This date holds immense symbolism in world literature. Books in all their forms allow us to learn and to keep ourselves informed, and they also entertain us and help us to understand the world. The Ministry of Commerce, Industry and Trade today commemorated this day and announced a 200,000 Malangeni allocation to support the creative industry through the Eswatini Copyright Association. Mary Hlanze from the ministry will connect with us via Zoom for a discussion on the Book and Copyright Day commemoration. Do stay tuned. For now, let's kick off the program with our first story.
Digital helps you make cross-border payments. Human gives you global specialists. Digital allows you to apply for a loan anytime, anywhere. Human connects you to credit experts. Digital puts you in control of your money, while Human connects you to wealth advisors. Digital allows you to freeze, unfreeze, cancel, and reorder your card. Human gives you that personal touch. Digital when you want it. Human when you need it. Get the complete private banking experience with Nedbank Private Clients.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in. This is Nedbank Business Watch. We now turn to our business news.
Our first story turns to Taiwan, where an announcement of a major boost of over 9.2 million Malangeni in support for the Women's Microfinancing Revolving Fund. A powerful announcement that was made by His Excellency Dr. Chia Lung, Taiwan's Minister of Foreign Affairs, during a special event held at Sibanesami Hotel, Eswatini. Now, this support is a game changer for women entrepreneurs across the kingdom. Let's look at it.
In 2023, Taiwan invested $1 million to establish the revolving fund. The money has been used to help women and young people in rural areas, in particular, to start their own business. Sending low seed funding has helped increase household income and in the long run will contribute to economic development. Over the past years, we have seen how the revolving fund have changed lives. Through microloans and training, the program has helped women achieve economic independence. Today, I'm happy to announce that Taiwan will inject another $500,000 into the fund to make the project even more powerful for empowering women and youth in our partners, those people in Eswatini. The investment will extend the outreach of the program, and once again, this demonstrates that Taiwan and Eswatini are committed to economic empowerment and sustainable development.
The Deputy Prime Minister Thulisile Dladla says the fund has changed the lives of many women in Eswatini.
Your commitment to empowering women in Eswatini through this fund has not only impacted individual lives, but has also uplifted entire communities. This initiative comes after the President of the Republic of China, Taiwan, presented this gift amounting to US $1 million to Her Majesty the Queen Mother, who actually initiated this concept of empowering women of Eswatini, mostly focusing on women in our constituencies. To date, the Women's Revolving Fund has become a beacon of hope and a symbol of progress. It has opened doors for many of our women, doors that had long been closed due to limited financial access and economic marginalization.
According to the Taiwan Technical Mission, the Women's Microfinancing Revolving Fund has disbursed over 9.6 million emalangeni since it was launched in the year 2023. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
And more will come as great news and a major boost to local creatives. The Minister of Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangxoba Khumalo, has announced a 200,000 Malangeni allocation to support the creative industry through the Eswatini Copyrights Society. The announcement was made during the World Book and Copyright Day celebrations held at Happy Valley Hotel in Zuluni.
The Minister for Commerce, Industry and Trade, Honorable Mangxoba Khumalo, says this funding signals a strong commitment to empowering creatives, nurturing talent, and ensuring that artists in Eswatini are not just seen, but supported and celebrated.
We have an initial seed allocation of 100,000 Malangeni to Eswatini Copyright and Neighboring Rights Society to establish what we call a Creative Industry Development Fund. The fund will offer small grants. It's not a lot of money initially, but it's a pilot. If it's a success, it will keep growing. And we'll offer small grants to members for professional growth and to access new markets. Number two, we are also proud to announce another 100,000 emalangeni for a national short film competition, laying the foundation for a vibrant local film industry. So Tabana competition will see sakhe short films, bese kuba khona lo khoneliswa ukuthi mhlambe le short film yakhe ngiyo lehambe embili. Sicela announcer as well ukuthi siphuma le corporate society ukuthi establish health and wellness program where ukuthi ema artists langema-members ale society akhone ukuthola professional assistance, mentoring, coaching, counseling, lapho kudingeke khona ngoba like all industries, we care for the well-being of creatives.
Samkeliso Nxumalo, chairperson of the Eswatini Copyright Society, says for an industry that has long struggled for recognition and resources, this comes at a much-needed shot in the arm and a step towards building a thriving, sustainable, creative economy.
And in logo, let's not wake up each morning, just like somebody else avuga, I am 17 and 8 to 5 yake. The creative also has that aspiration to be able to wake up every morning, go into their studio and create decent work, participating in economic growth. The whole purpose of unlocking royalties is about ensuring that.
UNESCO Secretary General Lwandle Simelane says creatives should be treated as business people.
Know your rights, understand the legal frameworks. We have a very nice act. Please delve into it.
The role of literature in achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and the powerful theme empowering Eswatini creatives, unlocking royalties. For Nedbank Business Watch, Nelson Dlangamandla, Vuminkosi Nzinisa, Ezulwini.
Well, that's it for our business news. Thank you for tuning in. You're still watching Nedbank Business Watch. After the break, we connect via Zoom with Meli Hlanze from the Ministry of Commerce.
Did you know that there's something like 1.4 billion cars in the world? That's about one car for every 6 people. Cars, not only a way to get around, but also a marvel of engineering. Thousands of parts, crafted in factories all over the world, each designed to interconnect and assemble into a single product. Cars, like this one, are just one example of something made possible by something we call supply chains. These supply chains are the assembly line that creates and delivers the products that you and I, the consumers, want to buy. A vast, interconnected network of production that turns raw materials from all over the world into finished products and delivers them to you. The upside? We get cool stuff like this phone. Downside, if even one of those thousands of pieces is missing or late, well, you don't really have anything, do you? It wasn't always this complicated, though. Back in the day, you'd hammer together some boards, hitch it to a horse, and with a little elbow grease, you had yourself a ride. Until around 100 years ago, something rolled into the scene that changed the game. The first mass-produced automobiles were assembled in the US and could mostly be made from domestic materials. But not everything. Things like the rubber and the metals had to be imported from abroad. And it all had to get to the factory floor in time to be assembled into a car. Over time, cars got more elaborate, luxurious, safe. Engineers added things like microchips, which are complex products themselves, requiring their own production processes. Eventually, we got the supply chain down to a science. People wanted more, and so producers put out more and refined production to get them out quicker and quicker. Suppliers timed things out so that goods would get to the factory just when they were needed. And it wasn't just cars. Even the screen you're watching me on right now was sourced from multiple countries. And then came the pandemic. Ports and borders closed, factory workers were sent home. The whole supply chain was tangled up by things arriving late or not at all. And all this at a time when people were trying to buy more stuff, like cars. When things started reopening, there was a huge backlog, resulting in traffic jams in ports. Car makers didn't have the parts they needed, like this one, because factories making those parts didn't have the people or the materials that they needed. And things still aren't back where they were before, which has led some people to question the effectiveness of the whole global production system and whether the supply chain has just become too complicated. In the face of major shocks, like a pandemic or a war, are supply chains too fragile? And if they are, what can we do about it? Some people have called for reshoring, that is, moving production back home. But research doesn't show that it would improve resilience. It's basically like putting all your eggs in one basket. So, what am I driving at here? Well, to get where we're going, we need one another.
Welcome back to the program. You're still watching NetBank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. If you have just tuned in, you have tuned in at the very, very important time. We want to look at the vast landscape of financial choices, the difference between a wise decision and a costly misstep, which can often lie in the fine print, whether it's loans, overdrafts, or credit cards. Each financial tool has its moment to shine, but also its pitfalls if misunderstood. Today, we cut through the jargon and bring the clarity to the numbers. Charles Mkonda, Head of Sales Support, a man who doesn't just sell financial solutions but ensures clients make informed strategic moves with their money. From the necessity of fixed repayment schedules to the allure of credit cards rewards, we unpack the best borrowing strategies for different life situations. So the question is, are you making the right money moves? Let's find out now with Charles. Charles, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the program. It's funny, this money conversation, because borrowing has often been, perceived as a bad decision, but it has helped people with a lot of, improvements in their lives, so to speak. Speak to me about, how one can approach the decision of whether to take out a loan, an overdraft, or a credit card, and why it's important.
Thank you so much, Sviso. Good afternoon to the viewers. First of all, it's important to note that as a potential client to the bank, or maybe an existing client, there are situations whereby you cannot, given your current income, be able to take on special projects, right, or take care of emergencies. So these are situations that then call for you to reach out for a helping hand, whereby the bank then avails these facilities to you as a client. So taking out a loan, as you are saying, is not such a bad thing if it's taken out at the right time, for the right purposes. As I was saying, there are instances whereby you need to take care of large expenses, like you need to buy a car, you need to buy a vehicle, you need to fund a business, you need to pay for school fees, or even you've just got an emergency that has come up, like a medical emergency. So there are some instances that require for you to reach out and go beyond your current means.
Yeah, and I can suppose even, just on a daily basis, you may find something that you may need to buy at that particular time. And then you look at your balance and you're like, my money doesn't allow me to afford this right now. The overdraft avails itself there, doesn't it?
Exactly. So the three types of borrowings mainly would be your loans, your overdrafts, and your credit cards. So your overdraft comes in whereby, in a situation whereby you're in a quick fix and you really need to be bailed out at that point in time. So what the bank will do is they will give you a limit that you can use. So that limit can be used at any point in time for any of your expenses, like you are saying, an expense that comes up. But it's important that as you've taken up the overdraft, make sure that your repayments, say maybe your income at the end of the month, is able to adjust that overdraft so it becomes available for you over a long term.
Yeah. So it's important to make those calculations if you're going to go with the overdraft choice, to assess whether when you do receive that salary or that money that you expect to come in, it is enough to cover for that and then carry you through for your other expenses. It's very important.
Precisely.
Let's get into the loan in particular. They are often looked at as, a safe choice because of the low interest rates and, of course, the restructured payments, as you call them. But in a world where financial stability, obviously right now, it isn't always guaranteed with all the social issues and economic issues that we are currently facing. What should a borrower consider before committing to a loan?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumal. So before committing to a loan, you must consider, first of all, the amount that you require. Loans will give you a lump sum that you will have to pay over a fixed term. So the good thing about it is you are able to adjust for the repayments. So it's important to, first of all, consider the repayment period that you'd want for that loan and the exact amount that you need. So, for instance, if you need a 65,000 Emalangeni loan, it's not advisable for you to then go for 80,000 Emalangeni, yet you need 65,000, because in the future that's going to catch up with you when you need to be bailed out somehow. So if you need another loan, then you'll find that your affordability by that time has been affected by going overboard in terms of the loan that you got previously.
Credit cards, often the most misunderstood methods of borrowing. There's a lot of promises that come with the rewards, the convenience, interest rate, free periods. Talk to me about, how one can harness this particular benefit of credit cards without falling into a perpetual financial trouble.
Thank you. So with credit cards, most viewers may not be aware that if you pay off your debt within a 30-day period, then there is no interest that is charged on your credit card. So if you're able to use your credit card and then pay it out within that 30-day period, then you'll be able to sort of get free debt from the bank. So it's a leeway that viewers can use at any point in time. But the most important thing about credit cards is that they open up doors for you to be able to transact almost all over the world. So you may find out that in instances whereby your debit card is unable to process a transaction, with credit cards you are more free to process those transactions. Like you're saying, there are also benefits that come with credit cards. So those benefits are clients are also open to use those benefits. But I would suggest that as a client, be responsible as you're using this product. Your credit card must also be used, but try to pay it off as quickly as possible, as compared to the others.
Interest rates and fees, an interesting topic, because they can make or break a borrowing decision, right? I think that's a general consensus. But what are the key factors there that, let's say, customers should compare when choosing between these options, the interest rates and the fees?
Thank you. That's actually a key consideration that a client must make before taking out any loan. You must be able to compare your interest rates, because interest rate will affect you for the duration of the repayment. So even a difference of, say, 1% in interest rates, if you're looking at it over a long period, turns out to be thousands of Emalangen. So it's important for you, before you take out a loan, consider what the interest rates are. Consider also the fees that you're going to pay pertaining to that loan. So do read the fine print and do find out what those fees are, because it may at some point in time look like it's cheaper for you to take out that loan considering only the interest rate, yet when you look at the associated fees, it becomes much more expensive for you.
Yeah. And I'm aware that Nedbank has a loan calculator tool that it offers even online. I believe you go on the Nedbank website. You do have that loan calculator that can surely help you. Talk to me about the importance of utilizing such tools.
Thank you so much. So you're absolutely right. At Nedbank, we have the tool whereby you can go and calculate your repayments. So it does give you an estimate of how much you're going to be paying in terms of repayments. And you can even adjust the periods to a comfortable period that you'd want to use. So such tools are so important when it comes to your budgeting now, because as a client, you must be able to budget for all your expenses before you even go through them in the month. So it's better for you to budget for those expenses before even your income comes in at the end of the month, because you may find out that you are losing a lot of funds as you are going through the expenses of the month, yet you could be cutting out unnecessary expenses.
Yeah, we often speak about budgeting as, a measure that one takes when they have money, whether you budget for your groceries, whether you budget for your children's school uniform, whatever expenses that you have really. But it often eludes people that when they go to borrow money, they can also budget around how they are able to repay that money. Because like you are saying, there's a big element of responsibility. I think you've mentioned responsibility across all these sections, so that becomes very big, and budgeting is a big responsibility. Talk to me about, budgeting as a form of a repayment solution.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. Budgeting is such a big element of your income. Monthly, as you're going through your expenses, you will note that clients tend to maybe overspend when it comes to entertainment and events and all the like. So it's important for you, as you go seek this loan from your financial institution, ensure that it falls within the budgetary means that you have. So for instance, you may be taking out a loan for a car repayment. So as you are making those repayments, you will notice on a monthly basis that your affordability is affected somehow. So it's important for you to stay comfortable and ensure that you're still able to do the things that you enjoy within the income that you have. On a monthly basis. And I must mention that as a trusted financial institution, we are able to calculate for you your budget and ensure that you're still living within your means.
Yeah, I'm aware that you are available on X, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn at Nedbank Eswatini for our viewers at home who may have more, questions to ask Charles or anyone at their nearest branches. Nedbank is at your nearest convenience there. And you can also have their help desk number, 3278 1999, 3278 1999, available on X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Nedbank Eswatini. This has been Charles Mkonda. We'll go for an ad break. We'll be back shortly. In the wake of century-high U.S. tariffs, the International Monetary Fund has downgraded its growth outlook for most countries. That is the conversation that we're getting into with Sanel Sbia. right now. We want to look at the IMF that now projects global growth at just 2.8% for 2025, a sharp drop from the 3.3% forecast that was issued in January. Now, the fund's chief economists say that the world has entered a new era of trade marked by escalating tensions and a major global reset. So what does this downward revision mean for economies around the world, including our small nation here in the Kingdom of Eswatini? Sanele Lesbia is our economist. He's in studio and he's going to help us break it all down and, just to bring us the latest from the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington, D.C. Sanele, good afternoon. Welcome to the show. A new era of global trade. That is strong language. What does it mean, and what do they mean by that?
It's not a new era. One would say it's just a revert back. It's a revert to the old days before we came up with the WTO. Pushing for free trade, abolishing of all tariffs, and because right now you needed to have a strong argument why you want to have tariffs on certain commodities, right? But right now what we're seeing with the US breaking rank from that, so essentially it's a free-for-all. So right now anyone and everybody can just issue tariffs just like that. So we are being ushered into a new age, which in itself is just a restoring of maybe say trade 1.0.
I want us to get into the numbers. I have the chart here. I'll just quickly open it. A 0.5 drop in global growth. That is no small dip if we really put it in the grand scheme of things and we really count, what that is. But the United States here is taking a particularly sharp hit. This is from 2.7 down to 1.8. The difference is 0.9. Why is the world's largest economy slowing so aggressively?
So I think what we're seeing there with that 90 basis point cut is an issue to do with the impact of tariffs, right? So tariffs ideally do not hurt the exporter, but they hurt the importer. So what this means is if we continue seeing this high level of tariffs within the U.S., with the U.S. being an importer, that's where the tariff gets paid. So essentially we're going to see that a bit of inflation coming through from the U.S. and, once the commodities become a bit expensive, that's going to slow consumer demand within the U.S. and ultimately we should see that economy slowing down. And also the issue to do with supply chains, even if, companies in the U.S. do want to get into production within the U.S. economy, but now it becomes a bit of a problem in terms of, let's say you want to set up a car assembly plant. You can't do it in 2 months. It needs time. It needs proper planning. So for this year, it'd be a bit difficult for those supply chains to move and, for all that production to move back into the U.S. If President Trump continues with this policy, we've got to understand that what we call the transition is not at all going to be easy.
But not so much easy for the U.S. It seems like they're, receiving the biggest brunt of it all, and I wonder what his foresight is telling him. His team has a lot of advisors, but sometimes it seems as if he doesn't even need the advisors. He makes announcements that people who are responsible for those announcements get shocked with his own pronouncements. So I'm really, really fascinated to see how all of this unfolds. But I think the kind of conclusion that we can reach here is that developed economies are suffering, but so are emerging ones, and that is where we come in as the Kingdom of Eswatini. And I wonder what kind of downstream effects should we expect from this global cool down?
So Eswatini is what we call a net importer, right? And we basically drive a trade-driven economy and a services-driven economy. So when we see the global economy slowing down, that means, our exports are not going to find much market. So we're going to see that slowdown is going to affect our export potential. And when we also want to import commodities, given how the tariffs are going to play and how supply chains are going to be affected across the globe, you might find that we do import a bit of that inflation. For example, if within China to produce a certain commodity, certain imports have to come from the US. So imagine now that input comes into the US and it attracts that 140% tariff into China, and then now we are producing a commodity that needs to go into Eswatini from China. It is also going to carry that 145% tariff in itself. So we end up importing such commodities, such inflation. And also there is the issue of the retaliation in itself. How far will it go, right? I mean, we've heard China saying that they are going to retaliate with countries that are going to cooperate with the US to hurt China. So what essentially that means is China is not only going to focus their wrath on the US. If certain countries are seen as co-conspirators with the US, then we are going to see that type of impact happening. So, supply chains might most likely be affected across the globe, not just within what the US and China do. So we should likely see that as well. And essentially, what we'd likely see is a slowing down of our own economy here in Eswatini. And as we await to see what the number is going to be tomorrow for Eswatini, but as you've rightly mentioned, emerging economies and low-middle-income countries have also been revised downwards.
I like this graphic here on our screen. And, unfortunately, they just took it down, but it's pretty much showing us the numbers within the US as well as the United Kingdom, and this is what we call advanced economies, as it were. The United States moves from 2.7 to 1.8. We've already highlighted that. That means a 0.9 difference. The UK moves from 1.6 to 1.1. That's a 0.5 difference. Pretty much the same difference that we are inheriting ourselves. And you mentioned something around inheriting inflation. And as you expound on that, I wonder if this speaks to a recession risk that is back on the global table, or a realignment, or stagnation, not collapse. What is it?
But I think what we would rather say is it's a bit of stagnation. That's what I would call it.
Stagnation.
Yeah, because when you look at the news coming out of Washington, from the IMF World Bank conference, that spring conference, what it's telling us is, yes, we are seeing those downward revisions, but when you look at the fundamentals within the United States, they remain positive, very strong. So what you're seeing is the US moving from a very strong economic position into somewhat of a compromised economic position. And not yet much, not yet much in terms of warranting recession fears, at least according to the IMF. But yeah, we are watching out for how this is going to play out, and how this entire tariff story is actually going to play into either plunging the global economy into a recession, or actually getting us out of one. And we do hope that President Trump plays nice with President Xi, as has been saying this morning. So we're also seeing that change in tone from Washington, more especially from President Trump himself, saying, now we're going to play nice with Xi, and we hope he plays nice so we reach a deal. So hopefully this is only going to be transient.
The best way to respond to a bully is to retaliate, is to bully the bully. And you see the bully becoming nice, and that is exactly what we are seeing now. I wonder, for an economy like Eswatini, I think we have agreed we're an emerging economy, 0.5. What's the priority right now? Do we brace for headwinds, or we hold steady?
Right now, I would say until we have more information, we need to hold steady. But in the background, what we need to be doing is to be simulating all these different scenarios and preparing for the worst case scenario and pray that it doesn't happen, but you need to be prepared for it, right?
Okay.
In order for us to do that, what we need to do is to model the numbers and play around with the data and see how the tariffs are likely going to divert trade and how much trade we are going to get coming to us and how much of our trade into the US and across the globe is going to be diverted, you know, all of those things. And that way would be able to make sense of what is to come. But until these talks about tariffs and Russia, Ukraine and Israel have all subsided and we've all gotten that much more information around that, all we can do right now is to plan for it, because I mean, even if we wanted to do something about the tariffs, what we are seeing coming out of the numbers, Mr. Ngumlan, out of Washington, is regardless of whatever happens, the 10% global tariff remains for everyone else. So Eswatini really has no negotiating room here until and unless the White House comes out and says, no, we're doing away with this 10% as well. So can countries come forward to make a deal? So Eswatini can only watch and see right now and only plan our best after this scenario has occurred. And also, we need to be looking at diversification. That one, we cannot wait to see what's coming out from the White House. We just need to start diversifying our markets right now while we are not compromising on our quota into the US.
Absolutely. I think for the benefit of the viewer, you know, as you're making that point, I think it's important that they really understand what you really mean when you say, you know, regardless of what happens, that 10% affects us no matter what the case is, because that affects directly the AGOA, right?
Yeah.
I think we had to highlight that because someone else would be like, okay, what does it mean?
What 10%?
Yeah, what 10% really? Let's talk about, okay, I also like the fact that you do say, we hold steady, but we also brace for headwinds. It's not an either or type thing, but it's both really. But I think a question that we can put in the middle is, what kind of opportunities can we seize as this transition happens?
You know, like we've always said in this program, there's always opportunity in chaos, right? Right now, you have quite a number of countries that are battling, trying to make a deal. Until and unless a deal has been made, we become the most preferred partner in terms of trade, right? So we need to start right now going out and, you know, attracting investors to say you can route your commodities through us and they'll only get the 10% tariff. So that's one of the things that we are likely going to see happening with all this entire, you know, trade war. If it plays out this way, you might see China diverting their commodities to go through what you'd call intermediary countries, right? So that it gets into the US, and then eventually, if we can make it such that the rules of origin allow for that commodity to be considered as a commodity of Eswatini and it goes into the US, only attracting that universal 10% tariff. So we need to think around such things. How can we get to divert value chains to funnel their commodities through us, more especially?
I've been advised that we should end our segment, but I will still 30 seconds. Please be very frank here. If you were to advise the Governor, Dr. Philip Nisi, or Minister Neil Reichenberg right now, what is the most urgent sort of decision that they should take in the midst of this development?
So I would say basically support businesses to diversify.
Interesting. Thank you. So let's be our economist there chiming into this development happening around global growth that has taken a hit as the IMF slashes its forecast. Let's go for that break. Toba is here to decode the indices with Lungelele Makakula after the break.
Hi, I'm Alex. Let's talk about banks. Specifically, central banks. Believe it or not, they're really important to our everyday lives. Central banks manage the flow of money in a country's economy, so things don't go haywire. They're typically part of the government, although they should operate independently. The specific roles of central banks vary from country to country, but they usually have a few key responsibilities. Mainly, they're in charge of monetary policy to keep prices stable. One way they do this is through what's called the interest rate, which is the cost of borrowing money. Central banks lower interest rates, making credit cheap to boost the economy. Because when credit to buy things, such as homes, food, and cars gets cheaper, people tend to buy more. And who doesn't love that? But when prices get too high, central banks can raise rates, making money more expensive to borrow. This can slow growth, but it also brings down prices. Central banks also buy and sell foreign currency. They can do this to weaken or support the value of their own currency. Stability isn't just about keeping prices steady. That's why central banks also play a key role in preserving financial stability. For example, if a commercial bank is in trouble, a central bank can give them a loan, but only as a last resort. Central banks have been using all of these tools to help keep things stable for hundreds of years. Okay, so why am I telling you this? Well, whether you're buying bread, or a pomegranate, or even starting a business, that stability is important for all of us. And here at the IMF, a big part of our job is providing policy advice that can help central banks all over the world meet their price and financial stability goals.
Welcome back. This is the final segment. You're still tuned into NetBank Business Watch. Thank you for staying with us. It's 13 minutes before 3 o'clock. We get into today's financial markets with Toba Kamese from NetBank Eswatini. Toba, very good afternoon. Welcome. I think the financial markets have gotten used to that anything is possible. Anything can happen in 24 hours. President Donald Trump has changed his tune. Has actually backed away from threatening power, Joe Powell. What's going on there? Give us an update.
Right, thank you, Lulu, and good afternoon to you as well and our viewers. So yeah, you are right. 24 hours is a very long time in global markets. So over the last couple of days, we've seen President Donald Trump tweeting or just making statements about how the Fed is actually slow in cutting interest rates. He feels that rates should be lower than what they are, basically interfering in the monetary policy stance that the Fed is currently taking. So that has sort of, made the markets to be a bit worried in terms of independence of the Fed, because the independence is supposed to be the Fed is supposed to be an independent body that does not have political influence, but looks at prudent monetary policy measures to drive economic growth and all of that in the economy. So that interference from the White House was making investors a bit jittery. He has come out to say that he's not firing him. He is not sort of backing away, as we've said. And that has sort of given the market a little bit of ease and breathing ground in terms of uncertainty and just because the market is not enjoying the high rates that are currently there, but they don't want the rate cuts to come from the president, but they should rather come from the Fed as the body, the rightful body that is supposed to do that. So he has sort of backtracked on the statements that he's made, and he said that he'll welcome interest rate cuts, but if not, then we move along.
Yeah, he seems like a person that does not think things through. He just speaks his mind and then later changes his tune. So the U.S. Treasury Secretary believes that there will be a de-escalation in U.S.-China trade tensions. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so he has also come out to just give a softer comments on the trade war between the U.S. and China. He has come out to say that the U.S. is open to a deal with China. They are ready to conclude a deal. He promises to be nice, and he promises to be fair. He said that should China not come to the table on these negotiations, then they're going to set the terms of the deal. But all in all, looks like the current tariffs that we are seeing, 145 on Chinese imports into the U.S., is likely going to go down, but he did mention that that number will definitely not be zero. Okay. So the tensions seems to be easing. In that front, we're hoping that then they will be able to come together and reach an agreement in terms of the tariffs.
Yeah, with all these tensions, tariffs, pause, and this drama with Donald Trump and Jerome Powell, what is the worldwide economic outlook in the coming months?
There's still a bit of uncertainty. This has given a bit of relief to the market in the comments, the softer comments that we are seeing from the U.S. president. But that is not something to hold on to and say this is what is happening. There's still a lot of global uncertainty. There's still a lot of things that are happening. We still have the geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. We still have Russia, Ukraine. We still have the tariffs. They are on pause, and looks like there are talks to scale them back. But we still have all of that hanging over the global economy. So in that regard, central banks are still just cautious in terms of their monetary policy adjustments. Should they be cutting rates? Should they be, so they are just treading carefully right now. But the current environment, what we're seeing today from yesterday's comments from the president, it sort of gave the market a bit of ease, if I can put it like that.
That's interesting, all right.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at today's currencies, Toba. How's the Lilangeni trading today?
All right, so the rand is trading quite well when we look at where we're coming from the beginning of the month. We saw highs of 19.9 at the height of the tariffs, but today it's trading at 18.57 against the USD. Slightly down, the euro at 21.1777 and the pound at 24.7150. I think against the dollar, so today we received inflation numbers from South Africa. So the inflation came out lower than expected at 2.7%. Market was anticipating 2.9. So inflation dropped from 3.2 in February in South Africa to 2.7%. But what I would say is the driving force behind the rates that we are seeing is the comments coming from the U.S. So it's what is happening in the U.S., what we've just spoken about. From a pound perspective, today the British Statistics Office released the PMI numbers, so the Producer Manufacturing Index numbers for April, which showed that private sector business activity in the UK contracted. It came out at 48 against 51 last month. So anything below 50 is a contraction in the business activity in the private sector. So that sort of then weighed down on the pound and the British economy as a whole.
Okay, so moving along, we take a look at commodities today. How's gold reacting to markets today?
All right, so gold has lost a bit of its rally today. Yesterday we saw gold reaching about $3,500 per ounce, but today we're trading at 3,330, which is 1.53%, a 1.53% drop. That is due to the sentiments that are coming out of the market after the softer comments from the president on both Powell as well as the China. So investors are at ease to then just explore riskier options and, leave gold for a second. But we're not sure if this drop is going to continue or if it'll divert back, but we'll wait to see. Brent crude, on the other hand, is up at $70.54 per barrel, which is 1.48%. Two drivers there. The first one is fresh sanctions on Iran by the U.S., which then disrupts supply. And then the second factor is increased or rather decreased stockpiles in the U.S. So an industry report has indicated that crude stockpiles in the U.S. have declined more than what the market was expecting, which means that consumption of crude products is actually higher. And then that talks to production and the economic activity. So that has sort of boosted the price of oil to the levels that we're seeing. We haven't seen 70 in a while. Probably the first time we're seeing 70 this month. They've been trading at 60 something there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with what's happening in the U.S., what's happening with equities today?
Right, so equities are doing quite well. I think the response to the positive sentiments from the president to investors as well as the market is evident in that. They are all green, the S&P 500, the FTSE as well, because it's global sentiments more than anything. So in the U.S., we're seeing Tesla share price going up today after Elon Musk said that he is going to, at the end of the month, move away from his involvement in the White House and focus more on his companies. So that has boosted the price of the Tesla share price. But other than that, almost all of the share price or the equity indexes are on the green today.
All right, thank you, Toba. Thank you for that analysis today. That was Toba Gamete from Nedbank Eswatini, just giving us an analysis of today's markets. As we did say, that anything can happen in 24 hours with financial markets. We go for an ad break quickly, and we wrap up the program with Sfiso. Stay tuned. All right, it's 2 minutes before 3 o'clock. That was the final segment with Toba Gamete. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of today's episode of Nedbank Business Watch. Hope you enjoyed it, Guni. It was quite interesting.
Interesting, but very concerning. Some of the global happenings that are happening, particularly the economic landscape of it all. We're seeing dips on dips on dips, and I wonder, SBR calls it stagnation. We just hope that we rise above it and we can continue to be on our growth trajectory as the Kingdom of Eswatini. Remember, the Minister of Commerce and the Minister of Finance have been tasked to get us back into a sustainable path. So we hope that is going to be the case.
Yeah, and just remember, for any queries, do contact, for any queries or services you want from Nedbank, do visit any of their branches countrywide, and do also interact with them on their social media platforms. We'll see you again next week, Wednesday at exactly 2 p.m.
Bye-bye.
Make better money choices. Choose a bank that takes your money seriously. Business Watch was brought to you by Nedbank.